Wire Radio, Saturday nights. We're back in the basement. I got DJ Wire here. What's good, Wire?
What's good, Rebel?
Hey, we chilling. Saturday nights, like I said, 407-646-2915. Keep those calls coming in. Get your requests in and all that good stuff. Meanwhile, on the line right now, we have a special guest on the line, Dr. Carl Hart. He's the author of High Price, very high-profile book that recently came out, published by none other than HarperCollins. Doctor, how you doing tonight?
Thanks for having me, man. I'm glad to join you too tonight.
Thanks again for doing the interview, sir. This book deals with drug use in America and stuff like that. What was your motivation to put this book out at this particular time?
Well, the book deals with more than just drug use. It deals with our society and how our drug policy has had negative effects, particularly on communities of color, communities that I care about, poor people. And so one of the reasons that I wrote the book is because there's so much misinformation out there about what drugs do, what drugs don't do. And this misinformation has been used in part to continue to marginalize these specific groups, particularly when we look at black males, young black males. They have high incarceration rates in part because of decisions that we made, policy decisions that we made. And these policy decisions have been based on some assumptions about drugs that are just not true. And after studying drugs for like 22 years, I thought that it would be irresponsible of me not to offer my voice to contribute something to this discussion.
Do you think mandatory sentencing for things like cocaine and crack cocaine, is that one of the major issues that open your eyes up?
Yeah, the mandatory minimums for crack cocaine versus powder cocaine, certainly that was one of the issues that made me aware of the injustices early on. Like, we've known about this injustice since the early 1990s, but nothing has been done about it, or was done about it until 2010. Something was done. Barack Obama signed legislation that decreased the differential treatment of the two drugs, but he still didn't go farther enough, and there isn't enough noise being made about the fact that we still need to reform crack cocaine and powder cocaine sentences.
During the Just Say No era, during the Reagan years, basically it seemed like they tried to make it look like crack cocaine came out of nowhere, and it kind of bothered me because it makes it look like everything was good in the hood, and then crack cocaine came out and just ruined everything. And how do you feel about that? Is that accurate statement on my part?
I think what you said is right on. That's exactly the major point I try and make in High Price. Just what you said, in the 1980s, the mid-1980s, we vilified crack cocaine, and we said that crack cocaine was responsible for all of the devastations that we see in the hood, when in fact, if you go before 1986, you go back to the 1984, 1980, unemployment rate in the black community was twice that of the white community. That's before crack cocaine. And then after crack cocaine, it's the same rate. And you see a number of these things that happened that we blamed on crack cocaine that were already there, and they continue to be there even today. And so not only Ronald Reagan played a role in perpetuating these myths, but we also have to look at black politicians, so-called black leaders. They also played a role in providing these simplistic answers that really were not answers. And you can see this kind of thing happening even today. And so one of the reasons that I wrote the book was so people could think more critically about what we are using as prescriptions, or what we're touting as prescriptions. Oftentimes, these simplistic explanations become more of a problem than the thing that we're trying to address.
Now, doctor, do you feel that the drug laws are more about a revenue stream for the establishment more than protecting the people that they're claiming that they're protecting?
Well, I think the drug laws certainly have served an important revenue stream. For example, every year we spend about $26 billion to control drugs in this country, and 70% or so goes to law enforcement, and that's the prisons and those sorts of things. So absolutely, the economics of this is huge, and we can't forget about the economics of this. And so, yeah, a number of people have vested interest. Not only the jails and law enforcement, researchers also have a vested interest in this. Treatment providers have a vested interest in keeping things the same as they are. So as people think about the money, they have to think about a wide range of people who are benefiting.
Now, it would be safe to say that the drug laws possibly cause more problems than fix?
I think it's absolutely safe to say that, but the drug laws are based primarily on ignorance. And so one of the things I'm trying to do with High Price is enhance the sort of intellectual tone surrounding the discussion of drugs. So if people are more aware of what drugs actually do and don't do, it'd be a lot more difficult to fool the populations with these awful policies that don't solve the problem, but they're based primarily on myths and misinformation.
Right. Recently, a while back when Django Unchained came out, Quentin Tarantino said that the drug laws or the war on drugs is basically a form of modern-day slavery. You think that that's a fair assumption?
Yeah, Quentin Tarantino, basically, that's a great, I'm glad he's saying it, but, we've been saying these kind of things for years, and we've known this for a number of years, and black people have been complicit in their own enslavement. I mean, by promoting or advocating for these types of laws. And one of the things that, like your audience, one of the things I hope they do is we need to look at the people who we vote for. And we have to make sure those people understand that they have a responsibility to us. And that responsibility includes things like making sure people are employed, making sure people have a stake in the society, because I assure you, if they are employed, have a stake in the society, you don't have all of these problems. But it's too easy for them to say the problems are drugs. And that's just, that's garbage.
You're a professor at Columbia University, and you grew up in one of the hardest neighborhoods in the entire country, Carroll City, where Rick Ross and Carroll City Cartel's from. And I was reading certain parts of your book where you were talking about your upbringing, and it doesn't seem like illegal drugs had a huge effect on your childhood, whereas alcohol did. Is the way that we deal with alcohol in relation to illegal drugs, are we on the right path with it? Because it almost seems like more people ruin their lives with alcohol right now than illegal drugs.
Yeah, great question. So the point that I was trying to make in the book in terms of alcohol versus these illegal drugs is kind of simple. The point is that alcohol, certainly you have the potential of getting in trouble with. Some people misbehave. They engage in behaviors that we don't condone in the society. That's true. But the vast majority of people who use alcohol do so safely. And so if we think about things like driving in an automobile, there are people who behave in ways with their automobiles that concerns us as a society, and we deal with it. But we don't outlaw driving, and I don't think we should outlaw alcohol either. The point here is that the same is true with illegal drugs. We should treat illegal drugs just like we treat other activities that concern us. And if we do that, then we don't arrest large numbers of people in the population. Then we don't put a blemish on their record so they can't contribute to the society by paying taxes, by being productive members of the society. So my goal in the book was not to vilify alcohol. My goal was to say that alcohol is something that we live with and we deal with it. And most of the people who use alcohol do so safely. And we should think about doing the same thing with cocaine, the same thing with marijuana, the same thing with heroin. That was the point in the book.
Wired-radio.com,
All right, Dr. Hart, so you're in no way, you're not advocating illegal drug use. Are you more on the bandwagon for decriminalization or just outright legalization of the banned substances right now?
So in High Price, I argue for decriminalization, and I think it's important to make the distinction so people understand the difference between legalization and decriminalization. Legalization basically is what we do with alcohol. You can purchase it legally, you can sell it legally. Decriminalization, the drugs still remain illegal, but the major difference is that you can't sell them. That still becomes a criminal offense. But if you're caught using it with possessing the drug, instead of getting a criminal record, you get the equivalent of a traffic violation. You no longer go to jail. You no longer get a blemish on your record. And that's what I'm arguing for. And the reason that I argue for decriminalization rather than legalization is because I am concerned that the population is too ignorant about drugs. If we legalize drugs, Even if we don't really have any drug-related real problems, I think many things will be blamed on drugs and people will believe it because they're so ignorant about drugs. So as an intermediary step, I'm arguing that we should decriminalize and then have a corresponding increase in education about drugs. And so people will be less likely to be fooled or susceptible to misinformation about drugs.
Now,